The joy of every couple is that after 1 year, they will carry their fruits in the form of children. But then when this doesn't happen, what next? What is the next step that they are expected to take? And that's the essence of this program, Fertility Half Hour. My name is Clement Barikwi. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of the program. I have with me in the studio Dr. Nsikak Inyoyoko. Dr. Nsikak Inyoyoko is a consultant, is a fertility consultant, I beg your pardon, and a regular guest on this program. Doctor, good to have you on the program.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right. Joining Dr. Nsikak Inyoyoko today is a new guest. It is his first time on the program. I'm talking about Agbo Oke. Agbo Oke is a clinical embryologist. Agbo, good to have you on the studio today.
Thank you very much.
So how do you feel joining this program today?
Well, I'm elated. I'm happy I'm here. At least I'll be able to tell the listeners one or two things that they need to know about fertility.
All right.
And the reason why they should come in.
All right, the reason why they should come in. Okay, so today we are looking at cryopreservation, and I'm sure before the program ends today you will know everything about cryopreservation. So I will start with Dr. Nsikak Inyoyoko. What is cryopreservation in terms of definition?
Yes, by definition, the cryopreservation is the non-lethal storage of tissues, cells, tissues, biological materials, okay, at sub-zero temperature. All right, for later use. That means you're storing it for use in future. Now in IVF, the tissues we have in mind are the oocyte, which is the eggs, the sperm, the male sperm, and also the embryos also. So we try to preserve them at sub-zero temperature. We know that the freezing point for water is 0 degrees centigrade. So we're talking of preserving at low as minus 196 degrees centigrade. The aim is to still use these tissues later. You are freezing, it's like pausing life. You pause the life of the metabolism of these tissues. And then by the time you now need to wake them up again after a few months or years, they are still in good shape, they're still viable. So the aim is to preserve their viability so that we'll be able to use them in future.
Okay, so that means in fact this going by your definition, whatever comes out of that at that minus zero temperature is completely blocked.
Yes, it's completely saved. It's saved, it's stored, it's paused. Life is paused at that point. But just like we sleep and wake up, you could waken those tissues up and those tissues could be used again.
Okay. Yes, those tissues wake up again. Now let's go to Mr. Okay. You are a clinical embryologist, and one would love to know, embryologists, we've been hearing of this over and over, particularly when it has to do with fertility. Can you before you tell us the history of cryopreservation, let's just know a little bit about what an embryologist does.
Well, it's as the name implies, embryology, right? We actually the embryologists are...
Okay, sorry, our viewers would love to hear your voice very well. So
as the name implies, embryology, right? They are more like the powerhouse of every fertility center. And of course, before we get to the part where an embryologist comes in, there are other things that need to take place in terms of the patient. You need to stimulate, you need to get eggs, right? For the men, you need to get sperm. And the whole essence of an embryologist is to see how they can generate an embryo at the end of the day. So that is where we come into play. Preserving sperm for people who are always in the haze, people who their spouse could be in Joe, and maybe they're in Lagos, and on the day of this procedure I won't be around. So embryologist needs to come in to preserve that sperm. For eggs, and embryologist need to preserve as well. But so the most important thing an embryologist does in an IVF setting is generating an embryo. which in turn forms your fetus, the baby they carry eventually.
Okay.
So that is the role.
Okay, you talk about generating. You know, someone who watching us will like generating, and we talk about power generation.
No,
Yeah.
not that
So,
kind
so,
of,
so how is the generation done?
Not that kind of generation.
Okay.
Yeah. There's what we call in vivo, and there's what we call in vitro. Now, in vitro is what we do here, outside. Fertilization that occurs outside.
Okay.
In vivo is fertilization that occurs inside. So now what the embryologist does is to mimic that process that happens inside the woman, outside, but in a controlled environment. Right? So at the end of the day, you should be able to get an an embryo. So you take the man's sperm, the garments of the man, and the garments of the woman rather, and fertilize them. You bring them together to form an embryo.
Okay.
So not that kind of generation.
Okay. So well, maybe in one of the editions of the program, we may maybe dedicate it to the generation of the embryo, so possibly to enable our viewers learn more about what actually transpired at the IVF lab.
Yeah.
I'm sure that is where you work.
Exactly.
All right. So let's look at today. We are looking at cryopreservation, and we want to know how has it been? How long has this cryopreservation been in existence? And that will lead us to the history.
Well, it's been there for a very long time. Of course, if you're talking about science, some people will say some processes we see today came in as a mistake. Yeah. So there's a guy they call C. Polch in 1948. That was when they came across. They tried freezing the sperm of a fowl, a hen. Right. So at that point, they felt, okay, if you can do this for this animal, it means you can transcend this into human gametes. So from 1956, the process started. So we are talking about history. It's been there for a very long time. It's not something that just happened yesterday. We were born. For me, I think I was born to come and live that, and we carried on with the process.
Okay, so still on the history, we know that this process, from a fowl to human, and when at that initial stage, were there any successes recorded?
Well, of course, experiments will always be experiments. Ab initio, there will always be failures. Then, if you have a failure, you go back and see how you can improve on it. So I think it was in the course of improvements that we now have what we call vitrification. So we now have the cryopreservation. Even though we have different techniques, we have techniques that we were using before the one that is generally accepted right now that gives better results, better survival rates at the end of the day.
All right, yes, I was coming to that because I know that when it started, and it was not as what we are having today. So let's look at how it all started. The first method used, compare that with what we have now. If, for instance, although we are going to look at the duration, but that first method, for how long was the garment preserved?
Okay, cryopreservation. I want to take us back a little bit. As the name implies, cryo. It means a medium that is very cold.
Okay.
Very, very cold. Of course, preservation, we know what preservation is.
Yes.
Storing something for future use. Yeah, so the processes, like I said earlier, were not 100%. Now we have two different types of techniques as far as cryopreservation is concerned. The major techniques. We have the slow freezing, and we also have the vitrification, which we're doing right now. Now the difference between the two is for slow freezing, it requires a little. Sorry, I think I have to make it easier for our listeners.
2 years, so to understand.
Now, most people, the concept they have about gametes, sperm, egg, embryo freezing is you collect them and dump them in the freezer. Right?
Yes, that because that was why in the last edition when we were also talking a little bit about it, I asked a question that in the country where we have epileptic power supply, so how is this preserved? So that actually came up. But now that you are here, can you just let us know?
So we have some, I should say, ingredients where you have to subject these garments into before you take them to the medium that will keep them. That the essence of this medium is to extend the essence of what's it called, the cryo, like I said, is a colder medium, and the colder medium we use in this case is the liquid nitrogen.
Okay.
Now there is what we call your cryoprotectant.
Okay.
Now, of course, every cell's organ tissue is composed of water and the rest. Now, you cannot just take those tissues or cells into your liquid nitrogen, because, of course, if you take them, they form crystals. Just like you take water to your fridge and you have that block. That block is your crystals. And if you have that crystals, it is not good for your cells. It is not good for your sperm. It is not good for your embryos. It is not good for your eggs. Right, because by the time you come to wake them up, sorry, those terms, stop. By the time you come to wake them up, the chances that they will survive is very, very low. Right. Now, for you to subject them into such cold medium, as a liquid nitrogen, you have to make them pass through a particular process. You replace that water with a cryoprotectant. It is the cryoprotectant that keeps it the way you want it in your liquid. Of course, the temperature that is as low as minus 196 degrees Celsius, it's low. If you put your hand there, it chops off. So you need to use your cryoprotectant first. Replace it with water. Replace the water with the cryoprotectant before you take them. So for slow freezing, back to our technique. For slow freezing, then we're using a very minute volume of the cryoprotectant, and the cooling rate was very slow. Like I said, experiment is a process. If you do the first experiment, you don't get results, you go back and try again. Not until when we now move to your vitrification, which is the second technique, which is the acceptable one we use now, that gives a 100% freezing rate, 100% survival rate. Now for this, it is rapid. For slow, you take it slowly. So we now discover that if you are taking this in slowly, the survival rate is low. They now introduce a more rapid process, which is the vitrification. So you first of all, you replace your water with your cryoprotectant, then more of cryoprotectant for vitrification, and the cooling rate is faster for vitrification. And of course, survival rate is fantastic. It's 100%, depending on the handler.
Okay, so depends on the handler. Just like what we keep saying, that the outcome of every IVF also depends on the center.
Of course.
All right. So, Dr. Ntsika Yoko, let's look at the indications of cryopreservation.
Okay, yeah, the indication of cryopreservation depends on what tissue or what cell we are preserving. If we are preserving the sperm, as Agor just said, that distance, between the man and the wife could be an hindrance to carrying out an IVF procedure. So you will need the man's sperm to be preserved. Maybe when it comes for the initial visits, he could preserve his sperm and then travel, and then you have that. We even have couples that live far apart, and the man could send the sperm down, preserved and transported in the liquid nitrogen, the cooling medium, down here. Then for maybe men that have cancers, for example, like testicular cancers, before the cancer destroys their ability to reproduce, they could produce the sperm and store. Same thing for the oocytes too. Men that have cancers, they can also produce their cancer and store. But the commonest one we preserve is embryos, and that's actually, in the IVF process, we tend to produce a lot of embryos and transfer a little. So if we transfer the number that is required and the excess, we don't just throw them away. It's an advantage to the couple if it is preserved, because in subsequent attempts, probably they want to get pregnant. If that cycle doesn't work and they want to try again, or if it works and they want to get pregnant in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years time, they could come back for those embryos. Those embryos will be transferred back to them at much lesser cost than passing through the whole process and time all over again of attempting to carry out the process of IVF, getting the eggs and all that. Some people also store their eggs when they are not ready for pregnancy and they are already getting to advanced age. In fact, of recent, we tried to advise women, but these days women tend to start their preparation a bit late because of work and family issues, work issues and the rest, and education. So sometimes we could advise some of them that, okay, why not preserve your eggs right now, so that whenever you are ready, those eggs can be thawed and expand, and if we are lucky to meet Mr. Right in the future, he could use his sperm to fertilize, and then we could have, she could have her babies. So crop preservation has actually been of so much importance. People with terminal diseases also have to preserve. Some people even preserve their eggs to be used after posthumously. Preserve their embryos to be used after they are gone. Okay, so it's really a novel venture. It's actually a good thing. It actually helps the couple to prolong their hope, keep the hope alive, and it's not. And then also there are some people that after the whole process of IVF, remember we talked about ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome at one time when the ovaries are overstimulated. Okay, so in those patients, it's safer for them to have what we call a frozen embryo transfer. That is, we freeze all the embryos and use them later. Because if you transfer at that point, the cascade of events of diabetes will be so devastating that you get to a critical point and they will require ICU care. Then you could be admitted in the hospital. It's actually a dangerous condition. So we freeze all the embryos, all the eggs, and then when they are much better, as per physically and biologically, and the problem has been solved, you can now come for them transfer the embryos.
Welcome back for IVF.